Welcome back to the shop. I'm Jason, and today we're working back on the 2010 Jetta from a few videos ago. If you recall, previously we installed a water pump and an alternator on this car, and today we're coming back at it and we're installing a set of motor mounts and a water pump. Yeah, you heard me right on that. My friend brought the car back to do the motor mounts, and when I popped the hood, there was coolant shooting out of the water pump. I cleaned everything up, and I found that from the little weep hole on the front, it's just dripping after it runs through a heat cycle, and then it comes back out. So unfortunately, I've got to come back at home in my home garage. I don't know. I ordered her a new water pump through FCP Euro's lifetime guarantee policy, and I'll be sending this old one back. Hopefully we don't have this problem again. Let me go ahead and show you what we have to get in the car today, and a couple of things that you're gonna need to get this job done. Here on our workbench, we have our engine side or passenger side motor mount. This is the mount that goes to our transmission. This is our wishbone. And then this is going to be what we're gonna use instead of dropping the subframe out, which is a much larger job. We're going to be inserting this. We're going to be inserting this piece into the mount in the subframe to help stiffen it up. It's not currently torn. If it were torn, we'd be dropping the subframe to replace it. Now, the unique part about this job is something that I learned recently, accidentally, is all of the bolts to these mounts are torque to yield. And that means that when you're torquing them, you take them down to a specific specifications and then you stretch them a certain amount. That certain amount renders them useless to be used any other time to get the actual specified torque. Now, I wouldn't have known this if it weren't for e-manuals online. See, ever since I was about 12, when I got my first dirt bike, I was using repair manuals to fix whatever it was I was. I don't naturally know how to fix shit. I just read about it and go, okay, well, A plus B equals C. Let's see if we can make this work. So let me show you what it was that I found with this that was like, well, dang it, now I gotta order all these bolts. Okay, so check this out. I've got my shop computer here. I use this for a scanner. I use it for all sorts of different things. And well, when you're out here in the shop trying to fix broken stuff, oftentimes you have to look up how to do that. And right now I'm inside of the Volkswagen Repair Manual Guide. I went down to engine cooling, removing and installing coolant pump, because I know on this car that I have to remove the motor mounts to get to the coolant pump. So just naturally, I figured they're gonna have how to remove the motor mounts in this section, and I'm gonna be doing the coolant pump again, or the water pump. It goes and it shows you all of the tools that we're gonna need. We're probably not gonna have because they're Volkswagen special tools, the part numbers. Inside here, you can click on any one of these different links. I'm not sure if you're using the PDF version, if you can do that. I'm using the online version, which I would recommend so that you have access to all of these. The PDF version, you might just have to go to that page. But it shows me, you know, I gotta pull the battery box, intake, piping, all sorts of stuff here. Down on the bottom, I have to dislodge or loosen this part of the exhaust that holds it. And then we're gonna be supporting the motor with a special tool. I'm gonna be using a jack, so forth and so on. And then we get down here to the bolts for the motor mounts. It shows us exactly how to take those off, just as though we were using, well, we are using factory repair manuals, which is pretty dope. Normally what I do is I go online, I go into forums, and I sparse and look through everything that I can to find torque specs and repair instructions from people that have done this DIY and or on YouTube to figure out how to do things, or I figure them out kind of reverse engineering, taking stuff apart backwards. So in here, it shows that you pull the coolant pump out, and then bolt for the coolant pump, the 3 bolts or 4 bolts are 10 Newton meters, and then installing assembly mounting. I click on chapter. That's gonna take me over here to all of the mounting hardware for our motor mounts, at which point it says to renew the bolts. That in German speak is replace them, you idiot. They stretch and you're not supposed to use them again. Well, dang. So when I was reading these instructions, I figured, well, I'm doing this for a friend, I'm gonna do the job right, and I ordered up the parts. If you're looking for a repair manual for your car, it's just as easy as going to eManual online. You can go in here, you can type in what it is you're looking for, in my case, a 2010 Volkswagen Jetta, and then it's going to give you lots of different options. You can pick the one that best suits your needs. If you do go on here and you're looking for a discount, you can enter DFB22 in the checkout box and get a 20% or 22% discount on your manual, and that would mean that you saw my video and went there, and that would be super cool. eManual Online sent me this manual for free to try. I'm really happy they did because now I have the correct information. I'm going to be using this a lot more in the future as I attempt to flip some cars. I have some goals to try to work up in cars to be able to purchase one that's perhaps a little bit more fun than my 2010 X5 that I picked up for $500, Project Cheapskate. That car will be for sale soon. Not sure how soon, but probably before Christmas. My 15-year-old son has been learning to drive in it, and that's been a lot of fun. He really wants a manual car though, and we're searching for something for him, which means I'm gonna need another manual for whatever that is to try to help teach him how to work on the car. So like I said, use DFB22 in the checkout box and you'll get 22% off of your manual. Let's get back to actually fixing this car. We're gonna run through as we go and make sure that we're hitting all the correct steps. To kick things off, we need to get the battery box, the intake, air filter plenum off. So we're gonna start with the negative battery terminal here. Grommet there. Lift this up and out. The little hold down is missing down here. You should have a bracket. We're gonna have to get one of those for this guy later. Down in the box, there are 3 10mm that you're gonna have to get off. And I've got one of these handy dandy clamps here for these big spring clips. Pop that off. Then we've just got plastic grommets that are holding this in place. There we go, and we pop out of our duct there, up and out. Now this should pop out much easier. Yep, just like that. Take this top hose, clamp, just slide it back. And I already put a bucket underneath to catch our coolant. Take our sensor off, pinch and pull. We've got our 2 T25s in these corners. Now, if you lift this up too high, it's gonna dump all this coolant out that side. We're just about prepped up top. We should go down below and get working on that side. Since I'm taking the water pump out, I'm gonna be pulling the wheel and the fender liner and everything to get back to the water pump. We're not gonna cover that in this video. We already did that in the water pump video. So underneath here, we're gonna start back with the exhaust. We're gonna be disconnecting these 2 bolts holding the lower mount. The instructions do call for disconnecting the header from the expansion pipe here, but I've seen other people get it done without it, and I think that we can get it done as well just by lifting the exhaust up and down. We've got enough flex here. And that expansion pipe has lots of room there. So then we'll move up here, got coolant dripping, to our dog bone. So this is our mount here that we're gonna be reinforcing. It does have some cracks in it, but it is not torn. And then our dog bone here slides up into it. So we're gonna start by disconnecting it from the engine, and then we'll pull it out right here. We got 16 on this side. And then this is a 21 on the subframe side.
Put your spineless back into it.
Wow, that one's really tight. There we go. Now the motor did just rotate just a little back. This mount keeps the motor from spinning this way too much, but our 2 mounts up top are what are holding it in place. So once we get on those, we have to definitely support the motor from the oil pan and from the transmission to keep it from moving too much, since we don't have the special mount for the top. With the belt and the covers off of the side here, I was able to get a good view, stick my phone up in there. I could see the weep hole. I'll put that on screen now here. It was just starting to drip, which is a real bummer. That's such a pain in the butt part to put in there, but I'm glad FCP has the lifetime warranty. I just hope this next one works better. Alrighty, back up top here, I'm gonna pull the connections off to the automatic transmission shifter. If you've got a manual shifter, you'll have something totally different here. This is a rigid cable that's going to get pinched up back here and between the motor and the brake booster. So we'll just pop this up and off and get it out of the way. And I like to use some MDF since it's on hand and it's nice and soft. I'm going to come up right to the bell housing here. And then we'll do the same on the engine side over here. Nice flat spot on the oil pan that you're supposed to have a little bit of strength there. There we go. Now we can get the tranny side unbolted. So over here on the transmission side, we have the 2 bolts mounting to the transmission there. Then there are 4 bolts under this harness. Depending on your vehicle, you might have access holes through the harness. In my case, the harness can lift and slide to the side, and then I can get to the rear bolt here, slide it the other way, and I can get to the front bolt right there. So we've got 18s and 16s that we need to get unbolted. Then this side of the engine and transmission assembly will be loose. As I'm unbolting this, I can feel the engine lowering, or the transmission side lowering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 1 bolt out, and then I'm going to add some more pressure with my jack underneath to make sure it's fully supported. Now for the other side, I'm just going to use this long extension to make it easier to get down to them. And I'm not sure how this comes out. Let's see. Looks like we can just lift and slide. There we go. Gosh, that thing is really super, oh, it's totally broken right there too. Wiggly. The new one, it doesn't wiggle at all. Crazy. All right, now it's gonna get a little dicey because there's nothing holding this side of the transmission up except my 25-year-old jack with a leaky seal. On that side, we need to get the rest of that motor mount out, lift everything up out of the way to get to my water pump. Damn that water pump. Now for the passenger motor mount, this one's a bit more tricky because of this 1 bolt right here. This is pretty easy to access on the front. This, not so much. Let me show you why. You got to get down in the fender here, and then it's actually down through there. So we're gonna have to lift the motor up just a little bit to get to that bolt, and then we'll have good access to it. So I forgot in doing the water pump, I had pulled all this off already to get down here. You do have to pull the inner fender off to get to this opening there. Otherwise, you're trying to sneak down through there, which is gonna suck a lot. Here's our other 2 bolts, super easy access. So there's the 2 big bolts on the frame, and then you have the little bracket here. These are 13s, those are 16s. Just getting these 2 out is going to allow the whole motor to lift so that we can see it down below here. Pop that guy loose, and then you're going to want a magnet to pull the bolt out. Voila. Find the puzzle pieces. Twist, roll. Oh yeah, you can see this one completely torn right there. All right, we'll start with the mount on the passenger side here. You've got these dowels that need to sit down in the block or against the block. So we'll mount the block first, and then we'll be able to drop it down to our mount, because right now we've got it up pretty high since we were just doing the water pump. That turned into quite the picnic because fitting on the back here at the heater core broke, which really sucks, so that's on order now. Got coolant everywhere. These are going to get torqued down to 40 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. I printed everything out because it was just easier than running over to the computer. This guy beeps and then beep, beep, beeps. Weird. It is digital, works really well. Link down below if you're looking for one. All right, now we'll set this for 90 degrees. Now remember, this one kind of drops into this little bucket down here in the frame. If you have a bunch of debris in there, now's a great time to clean that out. Gotta squeeze past this big old harness. There we go. We'll put our 4 bolts in the mount here, and then we'll bring the transmission up to line up with it. Oops. Okay, and same thing as the other side, 90 degrees. So then our bolts to the transmission, we're just gonna push the engine a little, get them lined up. These bolts that mount to the body are 60 Newton meters and then 90 degrees. And our bolts over here on the transmission, 60 Newton meters and 90 degrees. Our 2 little bolts here that hold the bracket to the body, these are 20 Newton meters, then 90. Before going underneath and getting our wishbone in, I'll go ahead and get our shift cable reinstalled. I marked it before taking it out so I knew where to set the length to. You got to make sure to get it back in the clip back here. That's going to take a little bit of effort. And then slide it in and we have our 3 bolts. All right, so for our wishbone, we're going to install our Powerflex bushing. Put a little bit of the grease on your bushing and then we're going to have to squeeze it up in there. It's a pretty tight fit, it looks like and feels like. So we're just going to work this guy in there. All right, it took a little bit of fiddling to get that bushing insert to go up there. Put your inner washer, then the outer washer, then your bolt. Get that started. I'll get these guys in. Now the torque for these depends on the bolts on the front. The 8.8 bolts that I have here are 40 Newton meters plus 90. This one is 100 Newton meters plus 90. If you have 10.9 bolts here, coolant dripping on my forehead, you get 50 Newton meters plus 90. Ow, right in the face. So the next day I have vacuum filled the cooling system, pressure tested it. Now we'll get it the rest of the way together and get it, well, we'll see how much smoother it runs with the new mounts. Based on those old mounts, I'm guessing pretty smooth. Boy, a set of these, I don't even know what brand they are, if they have a brand on them. They are Mayhew. I'll see if I can find this tool and link it down below. This has the special end on it for these spring clamps, and then on this end it has a lock so that it'll hold it in place. Man, is this a lifesaver when you got to reach down and get one of these weird clamps. Okay, Now I gotta put it the rest of the way together, fender liner, tire and all that, get it on the road, make sure it actually feels smooth while driving. Okay, so test drive didn't go well. In fact, it went terrible. Started the car up and it seemed like it was okay as the idle was high, and then as the high idle, the warm-up idle came down, it started vibrating so much that, no joke, I felt like my teeth were chattering. Something was wrong, and I was freaking out a little bit. I thought, okay, maybe if I take the car for a test drive, then the motor mounts will break in. And let me lift up here. You know, the motor mounts, they're gonna break in. I knew that was stupid. Why would they break in? They should just be mounted and they're done, right? Well, so after a bunch of playing around, what I found was that the insert, it was adding so much NVH to the subframe cradle that all of that was transmitting up and through the car. And the weird thing is, I've run these type of inserts on lots of different cars before. My own personal cars, never Volkswagen. I've run solid motor mounts on race engines. I've done all sorts of things and I've never had this kind of vibration. So I don't know if it's a matter of a combination of the new mounts up top with this mount on the bottom, or if it's just some weird vibration of this 5-cylinder engine. But what I wound up doing to figure this out was I loosened the 2 bolts on the transmission engine side, and I left the wishbone bolted in, started the car up, vibration was 99% gone. I removed the bolts so there was no more connection, 100% gone. Well, great. That meant that I was next up gonna have to try to pull that thing back out, which, if you recall from the installation, it was really tight to get in there. So, long story short, I got it out. I'm really disappointed. Thankfully, that mount down there isn't in bad shape. It's loose, but it's not broken or torn. It's just worn a bit. But there's no vibration at all now. So, do what you will with that information. You might want to run this thing if you're okay with a little NVH. This was not a little NVH. I'm just warning you. In my case, it was bad. So I'm not going to be recommending that bushing for this specific application because 1, it didn't work for me, and 2, it may or may not work for you. I don't know what the circumstances are gonna be. So what that could mean for the future is perhaps I'll be dropping the cradle out of this car so that I can replace that mount when it finally does tear. Now that the rest of the mounts are all in solid condition, hopefully that takes a long time. Take a look at eManual online. If you're looking for repair instructions for your car, remember, use my discount code DFB22 to get 22% off. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what I missed, didn't miss, or didn't understand. I'm not a Volkswagen tech. I'm just a dude with a nice beard playing in his garage. And I'll see you in the next one.